What just had? Did he just drop? Nice.
Oh, okay. So anyways, okay, take two.
Okay.
Welcome to It's to Midnight. I'm Lori Alexander, joined by my co-host tonight, Mr. Mark Sargent. Hello.
Hey, nice to be here. We got a great show for you tonight.
Yep. I'm back in the room, by the way.
We do. We have Mark Sargent on with us tonight. Mark is going to co-host when Robbie drops out.
They need to reposition those satellites. Well, they need to.
I'm sorry. This word you're talking. How do you spell that?
I can't say it with a straight face anymore.
Satellites. I've heard this word. I know I've heard this word. I don't know where I heard it though. Wasn't it a band or something?
In an Arthur C. Clarke novel, but I'm not too sure because I've never read anything of his. So.
That's okay. I haven't read most.
So we are joined tonight by Flat Earther Mark Sargent. Thank you for coming back, Mark. We had such a good time the last time you were here that this is a topic that we could talk about for. It's a topic that I just absolutely have fallen in love with, to tell you guys the truth, because it is how can I put this? Spiritual.
Oh, it's all encompassing. It's that book that you never ever thought you would pick up, and once you picked it up, you couldn't put it down.
Yes.
No. Put it as the worst cover and the worst title on it of ever in the history of books. It might as well be called Poop Sandwich. That's really what should be called. And nobody'd read that book.
The last time we talked, I told you guys that I shared with you that a year ago, now probably a year and a half ago now, I was one of those people that was just like la 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 la. I don't want to hear it. Got into a huge argument with a guy who was a friend of mine at the time. He has a channel, Stinky Cash.
Yep, I know Stinky Cash. Yep.
We just we parted ways because I just couldn't put my mind around it. And I've since publicly apologized to him. I haven't reached out to him yet, but now it's taken on.
And then I came along. Now I came along.
And a long came.
Things went downhill from then on.
Don't know who you are, Mark?
I'm sorry. Say it again.
I said, well, yeah. For those who don't know who you are, I don't know if anybody out there doesn't know who you are, but for those who don't know who you are, can you just kind of give us a little bit of background about yourself and what you do?
Sure. I used to, back in the day, play computer games professionally for a living, believe it or not. There were a few of us out there back in the mid-90s. It was a lot of fun back in the mid-90s, back in the golden days of computer games. And then I switched over from that. I stayed in the same city, Boulder, Colorado, and I taught people proprietary software all over the United States and a few places outside the United States. And that was fun. What I did was I broke down pretty complex software into easy instructional pieces, and I taught classrooms of people how to use the software. It was mostly time and attendance software, which is time tracking software. Not time travel, but time tracking software. So you owned a factory and you wanted to monitor all your hourly employees. We sold that sort of software, and it was not the easiest stuff in the world. It was pretty dry. And while I was doing that, I was into a whole bunch of conspiracies and thought I'd seen just about every conspiracy you could think out there. In fact, I was bored with conspiracies, to be honest. It's like seen it, watched it, read it, absorbed it, and the only book left on the shelf was Flat Earth, the worst conspiracy of all time. Absolutely, the runt of the litter. You don't want to look at Flat Earth. Nobody does. In fact, I remember vividly that when I clicked on my first Flat Earth video on YouTube in the summer of 2014, I was physically embarrassed to click on it, and I couldn't figure out why. It's like, look, I've clicked on videos that talk about the baby that Elvis and Sasquatch had, and it didn't seem to bother me. So why would this bother me? I had a visceral response. I actually got flushed, and then I understood it once I got into it. Once I started pulling on those threads, and I tried to knock this thing out. I tried to debunk Flat Earth like everybody else in the community. Made fun of it, tried to debunk it, and I was more stubborn than most because there wasn't that much content out there in 2014, and worked on it for about 9 months. Off and on. I was working and doing other stuff. And then at the beginning of 2015, February, I flipped. I went the other direction. I said, you know what? I'm going to make a series of videos because I can't prove the globe anymore. Can't do it. And if anyone's listening, this is probably going, this guy's an idiot. Oh my Lord. He said, how bad is this guy? What is he smoking? And so on and so on. And I made a series of videos called Flat Earth Clues, and I put it out on the internet, and I was dumb enough to put my phone number and my email address and stuff like that, and said, you know what? I think it's flat. Somebody tell me it's a globe.
That's funny you should say that, because you were one of the first people I watched, and I came real close to calling you.
I can't, for the most part, I can't answer my phone. I've got to screen all my calls. Not that I don't want to talk to everybody, but I get the same call over and over, and it's like, well, you know, I'm about 30 minutes into your video, and I got a bunch of questions, and I mean seriously, because I put my phone number out there in the first 20 minutes, you know, in the introduction. So if you ever want to call me, I know nobody uses the phone. Honestly, thought nobody would call me, and the exact opposite happened. People started calling me all over the place. Loved it. Subject matter experts started calling me. People wanted to interview me. Book publisher. People want to do apps. People want to do websites. And apparently, I was onto something. Apparently, I was resonating with a whole bunch of people. And then other people started doing other channels, and the community really, I mean, it was fantastic, the amount of people that started getting into it. I'm not going to take credit for the community what it is now, because it's really grown organically, and it's fantastic the amount of attention that it's gotten. And plus, I didn't monetize my channel. I made everything Creative Commons license, so anybody could take my stuff and mash it up. And I mean, I gave away millions of hits to people that just decided, because I didn't even make a collection of my clues. I just did them individually for the first 4 months, or maybe even longer, and before I even made a playlist. And that was basically what happened. So I became a flat earther, and it got so encompassing that that's what I do now. 600 videos later, and a podcast, and the book, and everything else. That's what I do now daily. I go through the world media and scour it, and it's not too hard anymore, you know, and find all the flat earth references, and it's been growing by leaps and bounds, almost geometrically growing. It's especially in the last 3 months, it's been insane. And that's what I do. So, you know, for those who are brand new to the topic, again, I'll preface what we're going to talk about tonight, you know, with don't believe anything I say. Don't take everything but also don't judge from the outside at face value. I know you will, because you have no choice. You're conditioned to believe in the globe. But that's my opening line, which is, how do you know? This is a question to all the listeners out there, and even the ones, you know, if this is reproduced in other places. How do you know you're on a globe right now? How do you know? I know you know, because that's what everyone says. Well, I know, duh. It's obvious. We all know. It's like NASA told us. Eventually, you're going to lean on NASA. So then I follow up with a question, and I say, and then this will be the end of my opening rant. How do you know before NASA? Because everybody's known for the last 450 years. Before NASA, 500 years now. How did you know? 450 years before NASA, there was a globe. Sooner or later, you're going to come back to a sentence which is kind of awkward to say, but you're going to say it because you have no choice. This is what you've been taught all these years, and which is, well, science told us it was a globe. Science would never lie to us, ever, about anything. And that's where it starts. That's where everything starts to get a little shaky. So there you go. That's my opening rant.
You know, and you're absolutely right, because I mean, you know, we've been conditioned and indoctrinated since birth. Yep. Cartoons, even, you know, early cartoons, Disney, you know, we all see that globe. We all see that, you know, the globe being where we live on this planet. The reinforcement is relentless. It's completely and totally, to the point where now, even my son, about a year ago, I was talking to him about flat Earth, and he got this look on his face. He cocked his head to the side. His eyes got big, and he goes, I thought we decided this 500 years ago. Is there really still people out there that Earth is flat? And I looked at him. I said, no, 500 years ago. Crap. Hold on just a second. I just lost my feed.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. No, we're good.
Okay.
Just got to pull it back in.
Phew.
I've got two computers going, just in case this happened.
Oh, that's right. I'm recording on this side.
In case one of them goes flat.
So one of them goes flat. Flat line, you mean? Not to be confused with the B.O.B. soundtrack, Flatline.
That's how I've been all weekend, flat and horizontal, so flat.
Nice.
Before we actually kick off to the main topic, I'd just like to ask you, Mark.
Yeah.
What is your view on the fact that Flat Earth went mainstream a couple of months ago with various newscasters and sports personalities popping up talking about Flat Earth?
It was something, and I'm looking at my playlist because that's when I had to do overtime in making videos. In fact, I was having a hard time keeping up. It's part of what I predicted, which was that 2017, we've got a real good shot at hitting critical mass here. And it's being allowed to happen. When it started with Kyrie Irving, the star point guard for the current world champion, Cleveland Cavaliers, when he came out on a podcast, literally the night before the All-Star Media Day, they were flying into New Orleans and the media was just waiting for him. And that athletes are notorious for giving super boring interviews. They're all taught the same thing. Doesn't matter what sport it is. They're all taught the same thing. It's like, well, it's a team effort and we gave 110% and our coach is real good and we play real good. And they're super boring. I mean, these guys are not known for being articulate for the most part. I mean, not picking on athletes, but look, they're trained to be athletes. They're not trained to be English majors. And so when one of them talks in a podcast and goes on at some length that NASA can't be trusted and we live on a flat earth, and he's not, hedging on this, that's news. And so he lands and the whole thing explodes. LeBron James doesn't shoot him down, one of probably the most famous current athletes in the world. And then all the sports shows in the United States jumped on this thing. ESPN was working overtime. Everybody ran a segment on it. Neil deGrasse Tyson had to come out again. The TMZ grabbed him. Bill Nye, the Science Lie, he came out on this. It went nutty in a hurry to where and then all sorts of other talk shows started picking up, and other sports people that, a wrestler, a football player, American football player, another basketball player. It got nuts. But yeah, I absolutely thought it was going to happen. It just didn't. I was sad that I missed the obvious point, which was basketball players would be an obvious choice, them and baseball players, although we haven't seen any baseball yet, because they're on the road a lot. So, and nowadays when you're flying in planes, you're making a lot of plane flights, you have full-blown internet access where you didn't have 20 years ago. And these guys are watching a lot of YouTube, and he's caught up in it. Once he opened Pandora's box, he couldn't put it down. So it was fantastic to watch, and I'm glad he did it. The Shaquille O'Neal thing, yeah, I know he backtracked a little, but he had to. I mean, the guy makes $20 million a year in endorsements, and he's been retired for a long time. So, but when Shaq came out, that was monstrous. I mean, I was listening to broadcasts in Australia that were talking about Shaq believing in flat Earth. That thing went everywhere, and you couldn't put a marketing dollar price tag on those people talking about flat Earth. Watching LeBron James, you should have seen the smile on my face when LeBron James during the All-Star Media Week or weekend is asking Kyrie on camera about flat Earth. I mean, how many millions of dollars would we have to pay him even if he agreed to it just to say that? It was amazing, absolutely wonderful, and
probably the best endorsement we've gotten in.
B.O.B. Not knocking B.O.B. Look, he's Grammy nominated. He didn't win the Grammy, but he was nominated. He was no fluke, and that's what I'm trying to, that's what we're pushing now. Look, the fluke part of this is gone. This is actually happening, and if I had a whiteboard, I figured out exactly why it's happening now, and why it's spreading the way it is, and it's very, very organic, and that is because science cannot put up a decent defense against this. They don't know what to do. They don't have enough weapons to combat this. And just because Bill Nye does a brand new show on Netflix called Bill Nye Saves the World, which is one of the worst things ever, considering the guy isn't even a scientist, and I could go off on him for like 15 minutes. Look, he's got a freaking bachelor's in mechanical engineering. That's it. He should not be on a climate change panel. He should not be on an astrophysicist panel. He should not be on anything. It's amazing. The mainstream exposure is fantastic over the last 3 months, and I wouldn't if I had to do it over again, I mean, the way it was done, I wouldn't change a thing. It's perfect the way it's been happening so far.
Well, I'll just say that Bill Nye's got a degree to go with his Sonic degree.
Well,
he's very comical and
that end he's milking a routine, because I grew up in Seattle and I know where this guy came from. You know, he's not even. I mean, yeah, he got his bachelor's in mechanical engineering. Big deal. It's not like he used it anywhere. He became an actor almost immediately once he got into the private sector, and it wasn't even a Hollywood actor. It was a Seattle actor, and his producers said, "Hey, you kind of look like a nerd. Let's put a jacket and a bow tie on you. Have you do a few comedy skits," and it stuck. And then PBS picked him up and said, "Hey, how would you like to do a children's show?" It wasn't like it was the iconic children's show. He was no Fred Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood or Sesame Street or Electric Company. He only ran 5 or 6 years, but he was syndicated, and so they kept doing the reruns. Well, you know, now it doesn't age so well because none of it was in HD. But then the media got lazy with Bill Nye because they figured, okay, what are we going to do? If we need to have a nerd on camera talk about something, do we go down to the local university and drag some guy up who may be absolutely horrible on film, or do we just call Bill Nye in and give him some pages and have him start reading? And people go, oh, he seems credible. That's what happened over and over and over and over again, to where now, I mean, you know, he's now milking this thing to the very end, and he's on camera nowadays, the only word I have for him is doddering. He's just awful, just terrible. Sorry.
And we you know, as we're all singing the Bill Nye the Science Guy in our head, because you know that's.
Well, see, I didn't watch it. I was already out of college. Well, I'm sorry, already thrown out of college at that point. So I didn't have to. Didn't have to endure it. I knew what it was. I mean, I caught glimpses of the skit, but yeah, I've run into too many people that have said, "Oh, I really liked him." You know, he was in the same show with Sesame Street, and it's like, kills me.
And seriously, what should that tell you? You know, I mean, he's in the same category as pretty much a skit show.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Again, he doesn't look. I don't mind that and I will say this: there is truth in advertising. He tells people that he is a science guy. He's just a guy that talks about science, right?
Right.
But
the guy in our chat room says, "Bill Nye the Science Lie."
Yeah, Bill Nye the Science Lie. Just because you like talking about science to children doesn't mean you get to go on a climate change panel. It does not mean you get to sit next to the president of NASA. It doesn't mean you get to sit next to Neil deGrasse Tyson and talk about quantum physics. That'd be like me, what's a good comparison? Okay, I like cats, all right? That doesn't mean that I should be invited or accept or get anywhere near a panel on veterinary medicine, all right? I have no reason to be there. Just because I like cats doesn't mean I have any say in my outlook on a cat's health, you know, from a medical standpoint. But that's the exact opposite that happened with him. It was strictly the look. There's so few scientists, and the reason is, you guys haven't figured this out by now, there are so few scientists, actual scientists, that can pull their own weight on camera, that there's only 3 that I can even name. One is Neil deGrasse Tyson, one is Bill Nye, again, he's not a scientist, and the other one is Michio Kaku. That's it. Those are the only 3 guys that you ever see on any news program. And heaven help science if Neil deGrasse Tyson gets run over in a crosswalk by a flat earther. Not saying that you should do that, but yet I am. Because there's no one, I'd have no regrets. I'd be totally worth it. Because there's nobody to replace him. They have pushed him out on camera so many times, and Neil deGrasse Tyson is, for me, again, there's a reason why he won't do debates. He's a one-trick pony, and that is, you put him on stage. Yes, he's got a good stage presence. You can put him in front of any group. Let's face it, the guy can talk well about any topic. But he's still he's an entertainer. He's a cross between Bill Cosby and Sinbad. the comedian. I'm not saying that to be racist, but that's what, when I watch him on stage, I'm going, look, he could be throwing out jokes right now, and he'd still have the same sort of projection. He's a good public speaker. He's good. He's dynamic on camera. He's let himself go a bit, but that's all right. Anyway, sorry, that's my little rant. What were we talking about?
No, you carry on. No, it's good.
So yeah, Bill Nye. I don't like the fact that they've been dragging him out there. I don't like that they've been. Michio Kaku luckily has stayed away from this. I actually respect him to a certain degree. I respect him more than I do those other two guys. But but my point is, those are the only two weapons they have against the flat Earth community, and it's not enough.
We got Brian Cox.
Oh right, that guy.
Yeah, you know what I mean. We have to enjoy him.
Brian Cox, that's right. Well, we take shots at him too. He's not completely out of the woods, but he hasn't gone all out against this thing yet. He doesn't realize the threat that it is, that other people have said. Now, to be honest, the science community has been somewhat distracted as of late because they're worried about Donald Trump not doing the anti-science thing because his vice president doesn't believe in evolution, and so that's where they're kind of focusing their energy. But it's like, all right, fine, focus your energy in the wrong place. We're just going to keep running around your flanks. The way we're growing right now, I would be severely worried if I was a scientist. Severely.
Yeah. So. And talking of scientists, the reason that we've grabbed you for the show tonight is that I don't know if you saw an interview that was broadcast about a week ago by a Dutch banker called Ronald Bernard. Basically, he was a banker and he was running around in elite circles and he basically told the world that towards, with the elites, and didn't make the connection to all the Luciferianism until he was actually asked to do a child sacrifice. And he basically, obviously he didn't do that, and it kind of woke him up. And one of the things that he did say is that people that had previously come before him weren't so lucky. Now, we was trying to make the connection between the 74 that mysteriously died over a period, and we kind of was trying to see if we could make the connection to the flat earth, because it seems a bit strange that they seem to have all popped off. And it wasn't just NASA scientists, there were doctors and holistic medical people just suddenly popped off. And then we had bankers as well. We had bankers that suddenly popped off. But the main area of interest, and I was just wondering how you your view on this.
Well, if you were going to get
connection, would them having any knowledge of flat Earth? Well,
it not necessarily having knowledge of flat Earth, but if you were trying to get ready for something big, and I've been talking about this for the last year, which is flat Earth is still only part of the puzzle. It's a big part. It's like it's the picture frame that holds the big picture. That's what flat Earth is. But there's whatever is in the picture, whatever's going to be painted in there, that's what we're still waiting for. And as far as the elites go, eventually the elites in general, they're going to have to cover their tracks and head for lack of a better word, the bunkers, head for cover pretty soon, whatever move they're going to make. Because if flat Earth keeps spreading, here's the unfortunate side effect of flat Earth. Sooner or later, if enough people start realizing this, you're going to draw the attention of money people, meaning not for production. I mean, if it makes it into a TV show, that's fine. I'm talking about people that watch money. Like, for example, the legal consultants and accountants that work for, let's say, the big aerospace contracting groups like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, General Dynamics, those guys, right? Because sooner or later, you're going to have those guys looking at NASA and the other space programs, and they're going to say, what exactly have we been paying for? What exactly have we been spending money on? And you're talking about you think the AIG too big to fail banking disaster that happened some years ago was a big thing. We're talking about something that's far, far larger than that, and is tied into a lot of nations. And you can't let that trial start. You can't let that class action lawsuit even become a possibility. So you've got to stop this thing eventually. And I don't mean just snuff out flat Earth, because you can't. They've allowed this to happen. For those of you who haven't figured this out, and I'm kind of back spacing a little bit here, because you've got to know that flat Earth has been pretty much running unopposed now for the last 18 months. Meaning, if you wanted to suppress flat Earth and the whole concept that we are not living on where you think we're living, you would stop certain things on the internet. They have the power to do this. One of the first things is you never recommend flat Earth videos to anyone ever. That's easy. That's super easy coding. I mean, that's not even a page of coding. You say, whenever you see this combination of words, make sure that video is never put on anybody's recommended list. And instead, it's the opposite. And not only that, but between the recommended bars on the side and the autoplay feature that YouTube introduced a while back, that's helped us in huge amounts. So people are watching videos about JFK and they're doing the dishes or whatever. Then all of a sudden a flat Earth video comes on. They have no idea why. I watched a video, I posted one where this guy actually went on YouTube and was going, how can I stop flat Earth videos from being recommended to me? I keep saying not interested, not interested, not interested. He goes, they just keep showing up. How is this possible? It's just it just would never ever stop. And because it's
inevitable.
It is inevitable. They keeps trending. Not only that, but when you type, here's the other part. When you go, forget about YouTube, go into any search engine and type in "the Earth is." Okay, what do you think pops up at the very top? Or type in just "is the." Those two words, "is the." That's one of the easiest things you can. It keeps popping up. Is the Earth flat? You could shut that down in 2 seconds. Never make that part of the search bar. You never say, "Is the Earth flat?" That should never be at the top of the list. If you're trying to suppress this, they're letting it happen. And then people are saying, "Well, if they're letting it happen, they're controlling." I'm going, "Well, they are." Or maybe this truck is in free fall, going down the hill, and all they're doing is trying to steer it a little bit one way or the other. Maybe that's all they can do at this point.
It's inevitable that this information is going to be out there. I mean, you think about these steps, the leaps and the bounds science. I'm doing the little quotation, the science. Yeah. Has come in the last years, so it's pretty much inevitable that this whole truth has finally come out.
You're absolutely right. I'm a firm believer that this was always going to happen. This was never going to be a secret you could keep forever. It's like trying to, and I don't know if I said this last time, it's like trying to hide a pack of cigarettes from your roommate. You can move it around here and there and find a couple hiding spots, but you're never going to be able to dodge them forever. Sooner or later, something's going to happen and they're going to figure it out. When you found out in the 1950s that the world wasn't what you've been preaching for a while, and again, for those of you who aren't quite getting this yet, what I'm saying is that science, of course, knew 99.99% that the Earth was a globe. But the fact remained for 450 years that until you get high enough to actually look down and see the globe, what do you really know? What do you really know? And you're saying, well, that's not actually true. I'm going, oh yeah, it is. Think of the core of the Earth. The what?
And that's basically when it happened. That's basically when. So when NASA went, oh shit.
Yeah. And at that point, you've got to ask, and the secondary question is, okay, let's say you're from NASA, or you're a scientist, whatever you want to say. You get up high enough, you look down, it's like, man, this is not what we were hoping for. Then do you tell the general public? And if you're one of those people at home and going, yes, I'd absolutely tell it, boy, are you naive, because you know full well institutions protect their own, governments protect their own. Science is not going to harm itself. It's literally like taking a shotgun to your own foot. You're not gonna do it. And
think about it. What would happen right away? Right away, they would have to see their main job, their main focus is to discredit God and to put science in that position.
Yes.
Whereas if they would have to admit that, then it would completely flip flop it. It would put God at the top, and it would totally discredit science. Can't have that.
Absolutely. You can't. Science has built up a heck of a reputation over the last 500 years. They have been doing a number against religion, and they've done it with gadgets. They've done, of course, yeah. I'm not knocking science. I don't want to go back to the 1800s. Look, light bulbs, great. Air conditioning, fantastic. Microwaves, very convenient. But science does make huge mistakes, and they've been taking some massive liberties over the last 100 years. Remember, these were the same guys that said, "Oh, heavier than air flight, impossible." Really? Because there's jumbo jets now flying around all over the place. But at the same time, they don't like leaving question marks for the general public. They do treat themselves like their own church. The core of the earth, perfect example. Everyone can open up any textbook and you'll see, the red and the orange and the yellow and the white bands leading all the way 4,000 miles down to the center of the earth. But when you ask them, it's like, oh, hey, how do you know that? How far down have you drilled? 1,000 miles? 100? 10? No, you've drilled down 8 miles. 8 miles. And yet you're telling us exactly what the core of the earth looks like. And they're saying, well, it's a guess. We're estimating this and that. I'm going, then why don't you say that? Why don't you put a disclaimer on the bottom of those pages with those graphics? Because when you don't, children grow up thinking that's absolute fact. And it's the same thing with the globe. It is like, you didn't know. You were pushing globes in the classroom for hundreds of years. And then finally you figure out what the world really looks like, and you can't go back on it. You can't, because if you do, there's going to be a whole bunch of scientists out of a job, and then of course
all those hundreds of years are now in question. Yep. People are going to look at it, they're going to go, well, you were wrong about this. What makes us think you weren't wrong about that?
I think their greatest mistake was trying to discredit Tesla and replace him with that file clerk name. Oh, Einstein, and Edison, and people like that. There must have been the truth must have been sitting in the corner and thinking, right, okay, well, we'll tick that one off. Yeah, you wait.
You're right.
Okay.
Tesla could have changed the future it could have made a whole brand new future. Don't know though if he was, some of the stuff he came up with, I don't necessarily think was made for the general public. No. The stuff I've heard about, the death ray, I firmly believe, that he made it. The earthquake machine would not surprise me at all. So maybe they thought at some point, it's like, you know what, we can't control him, therefore let's push him off to the side and make him almost a forgotten part of history.
No, but I mean, he was always aware of the ether, and I generally suspect that he was a flat earth guy that he knew.
Oh, sure.
He based a lot of his science around it.
Sure.
And that was their biggest mistake. Discredited him because, as we know, the truth will always out. You don't need to defend the truth. It's like a lion. Let it loose; it will defend itself eventually.
Yep, very true. And again, once they decide, I understand. I try to empathize over the years, and I totally get it. The powers that be, I call them the authority. I try to lump everybody into one big group instead of like breaking them down into all those little groups. But if the authority has one of those round table meetings or oval table or whatever table, doesn't really matter, and they have one of those meetings, they say, okay, so we figured out what the earth looks like. What do we do? Do we tell anybody? That meeting lasts about 10 minutes. It's like, well, what's the worst that could happen? Oh, so many bad things could happen because of that. I mean, if there's even a chance that there'd be pitchforks and torches in the streets, that decision is never going to be made. And I don't care who you are. I mean, you may be the most stand-up guy in the world. I know full well if I was in that meeting, I wouldn't raise my hand and say, you know what? In fact, I think one guy actually, I think Admiral Byrd. I think he was one of those guys that was like, you know what? I think they could probably handle it. And that was it. A year later, he was dead. Hopefully.
Not only that, but then you've got the whole issue of, do they want to give the money back? Because that's going to be raised too. Is where the hell?
Yeah. And the longer you wait, the worse it gets. Unfortunately, it's kind of like the cheating husband scenario, which is you find out about your cheating husband. He's only been cheating a year. You might be able to salvage something. However, he's been cheating for 20 years. Oh no. There's no coming back from that. That, and of course which is why I put in the clues, I put kind of a message to religion in general. I said, look, when this thing comes out, you're going to have to show some sort of restraint, because your first reaction is to hunt down every scientist and do horrible things to them because of what they've done to you over the years. They've been beating down the church for a long time. time. And I get it. The church had their heyday back. The church has done some horrible things too a long time ago. Do I think they might be able to do it better the second time around? They got a shot, but that's what it's coming to at this point, because no matter what happens going forward, because 80% of the population belongs to one of the major religions, it's going to turn into a spiritual thing before it's over. There's going to be a big sector of the population that's going to look at this as the big spiritual awakening, and why shouldn't they? My opinion. So
you're exactly right, and I think that's kind of what happened to me in this past year is, I look at it so much different now. I mean, it's people always say to me, or they always ask me, what is the one thing that's changed since learning the truth? And I think for me, it's when I walk outside and I look at the sky and I think his throne is right there. Yeah. And I literally, there's days I cry, because it's like, he's not an entity in a galaxy far, far away. He's right there.
No,
right
I can't.
There.
Absolutely. I can't even look at the moon the same way anymore. And I used to stargaze, UFO gaze with night vision binoculars for years. And even now, it's like when I look at the sky, and it was funny because even before I got into flat Earth, I remember when my eyes got really, really adjusted, and these were not the best night vision binoculars in the world, but I remember looking up there and going, man, if I didn't know any better, I swear I was looking at some sort of textured ceiling, because it was so clear and it looked so close, and all the stars were it was so vivid. And I'm going, but that's nuts. Again, the conditioning kicked in, because it's like, well, everybody knows that it's super, super far away. But when you look at the moon and say, you know what, it may only be a few thousand miles away, makes so much more sense. So much more sense. And the whole system works better. But yeah, for me, same sort of thing as you, where I fell away from spirituality when I went to college. I grew up in a very sheltered environment and didn't even believe that people lied, honestly, till I got to college. And, well, at least not, members of authority. Politicians wouldn't lie. Right. Corporations would never lie. What would they have to gain? And then when I got into this, I realized I could never do anything malicious to another person ever again. I mean, I completely understood that whole astronaut thing when you went to the surviving Apollo program astronauts and you asked them to put your hand on the Bible and swear that you went to the moon. I got why they ran away. It's like, because it had nothing to do with whatever book you were putting in front of them. It honestly, it could have been any book. I'm not knocking, that it was the King James Bible. I'm saying it could have been any book, because it wasn't about the book. It was about what's up above you. That's why it was like, because once you know it's for real, then what do? Then you're accountable. And it's a good feeling if you're good. If you're bad, if you're like a contract killer, you might as well jump off a bridge now, because you really messed up. You made some bad life decisions.
Exactly. So getting back to the scientist part of it, I mean, okay, so we can pretty much speculate all we want on the reason for the dead bankers, the reason for the dead doctors, the holistic doctors. You can pretty well, you can see why these people would have killed themselves, or they would have been murdered. The bankers, we know about the financial collapse coming. Obviously they knew something we don't know. They don't want to deal with it. They take their lives, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Holistic doctors, same thing. They know something. The government doesn't want them to know it, and so they're off. Okay, that's it. Yep. Now we get to the scientists, in particular the NASA scientists. Yeah. So you got to ask. That's when you got to ask yourself, what is going on? Because
I got a good example for you, and this is from a movie reference, and you'll get it once I tell you. I know you're probably not very old, maybe 29, something like that. Are you old enough to remember the movie Capricorn 1?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. Capricorn 1, there was one of the creepiest movie scenes I've ever seen. I don't care how many years you go back, where the NASA engineer, one of the software guys, is in the bar and he's telling, one of his friends is a reporter, and he's talking, he's going, man, he goes, I don't know what's up with the guys at work. He goes, I'm trying to tell him this computer panel is giving me nothing but the wrong data, right? And his reporter friend's going, yeah, whatever. He's he's bored, and he goes, what, Dad? He goes, well, it's impossible. He goes, the freaking Mars mission. He goes, can't be being broadcast from 200 miles away, right? And because that's what the data was showing him. Basically, his console was giving him the actual transmission data that it was being broadcast from a studio somewhere out in the desert. And Elliot Gould all of a sudden gets a fake phone call at the bar. There's no cell phones back then. And he gets a phone call at the bar. He's at the bar maybe 30 seconds. He comes back. That guy is gone. Drink is still on the pool table. We never see that guy again. And not only that, when Elliot doesn't hear from him a few days, he goes to this guy's apartment. Not only is all that guy's stuff gone, but there's a woman living in the apartment, and even the magazines, basically her backstory's already been filled in. Even all the magazines have her name and his address there. Like she's been living there for years. Basically, they erased this guy from existence. He was never there. He's calling everyone. He's going, look, I know. And then they try to kill the reporter, and then of course the movie degrades into something else. But the point is that if the secret is big enough, whatever the next play is going to be, whatever's coming down the pipe, and I still think it's going to be soon, real soon, that whatever it is, there is no length that you won't go. We've gotten to the point now where they are willing. You're talking about the same group that even money is not a factor here. Meaning, remember, the Antarctic Treaty means that billions and billions and billions of dollars in resources will not be put into circulation because you don't want the corporations even accidentally finding out what's going on, because you don't want to deal with the hassle, because you'll have to kill a whole bunch of people. It's like, you know what? Let's not even bother. Let's just lock off Antarctica forever. And no one can go there. No one can even talk about going there. No one can even petition. No media story will ever run saying we should start mining coal in Antarctica. No story has ever run in any newspaper along those lines. And it should really spook some people. It's like, look, what conspiracy do you know that's bigger than money? Because most conspiracies are based on money. And this one, there's only a few out there that are bigger than that. And this is the current front runner. And so, yeah, when it comes to knocking off scientists, well, heck, if you go to the scientist path, look up, because these are guys who've been kind of swept under the rug recently, although the NASA guys are a good one as well. Look at the radio telescope operators that have died in the last 20 years. As radio telescopes have gotten better and better, there's a chance that, again, like that engineer I just mentioned in the fictional movie, that their data is they're going to see data that is wrong. And of course, you would monitor everything these guys are doing. You would tap their phones, you would monitor their emails, you would have them tailed. And if the first time anyone does something, that says, you know what, I'm going to call my buddy at such and such. First time you start seeing cross-referencing, you take care of it. The line here's a great little movie reference. I do love movies. 1998, Deep Impact. You remember that movie?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You remember the professor in the beginning who got the kid who saw it, who saw the comet, and he wrote that professor at the astronomy place, and the professor freaks out, gets in his Jeep and gets his data and drives to wherever, and of course he crashes and dies. Well, that was convenient, because hadn't he crashed and died accidentally from being sideswiped, it was an accident, they would have pinned this guy down. They would have said, okay, look, and that it was just convenient writing. It is like they would have come to him and said, look, you can't tell this to anyone, all right? Guys like that would have been monitored, and that's what that's just the truth of it. Look at, again, one last thing, and I know I go off on little rants, but look at, there was one group of radio astronomers that I really had to get a chuckle out of it. It was an entire French team, I think, of radio, like the entire group of radio astronomer guys for a telescope, who literally died, I could not make this up, in a gondola accident. A gondola. Like 20 guys, just cables snap, straight out of James Bond, you plummet to their death. And I'm going, really? You killed the entire team? But why wouldn't you? you? What lengths wouldn't you go to keep whatever Act 3 is a secret? So.
I think what was the guy's name? Beaterman, wasn't it?
There you go.
Yeah. Leo
Beaterman.
The comic was called Leo Beaterman.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was actually it came out the same time as Armageddon did.
It did.
Hollywood. Hollywood does everything in twos if they can help it. So Armageddon, Deep Impact, Volcano versus Dante's Peak. You go on and on, because if there's money to be made, you can make it. There's a secondary market that you can pick up on. Just go a slightly different way. And I really enjoyed Deep Impact.
I did too. It was one of my favorite movies.
And I also liked Dante's Peak more than I did Volcano. One was meant for the popcorn eating audience. The other one was kind of darker. So.
Yeah.
Well, they thrive off disaster, impending doom, like 2012. In fact, there's a movie coming out later on this year called Geostorm, which is quite a telling movie as well. Which is
Geostorm? I have not heard of this one.
It's the same guy that did Independence Day in 2012 and whatnot.
Roland Emmerich.
Emmerich, yeah. It's obviously based on controlling the weather, and same old.
Did I send that to you, or you sent it to me? But we were just like, whoa.
I did a post on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say I loved. I loved parts of 2012. Roland Emmerich, he's one of Hollywood's great. Well, he's not United. He's German, I think, but he makes money, and he's really got a knack for disaster film. And so, but at the same time, when he did like 2012, he pretty much created the perfect crazy conspiracy guy in Woody Harrelson's character. You heard it first from Charlie, and now everyone, when people think of conspiracy guys, they think of Woody Harrelson's character. Living in a van with jars and jars of pickles, and keeping all his notes. But he was right. That was the difference. He was right about pretty much everything in there.
Right.
So
right. So let me ask you this. Recently. Because I can't remember when the last time we talked, but I think it was before the election. What do you think about people during like September, October, so November of last year getting actually called to Antarctica?
That was the whole Odyssey of 2016, the Antarctic Odyssey, was intriguing, absolutely. And I covered as much as I could of it. I didn't cover the Buzz Aldrin thing, but I covered the rest of it, which was it started early in the year of 2016 when, again, I could not make this stuff up if I tried, when Leonardo DiCaprio, sounds like a joke, doesn't it? Leonardo DiCaprio goes and sees the Pope, and he says that honestly, that's how, it's a real story. It's on video where he goes there. He, even though you're an A-lister in Hollywood, you still only get 15 minutes with the Pope, right? He's one of those guys. There's celebrities and there's that guy. And he starts talking to him about climate change, but then he gives him a book. He flips to a page, and the only painting he calls out by name is a painting by Hieronymus Bosch called The Garden of Earthly Delights. And it shows an enclosed world, flat with a dome over the top of it. Apparently, whether you believe the story or not, it hung above Leonardo's crib when he was a child and depicts, and he's selling this to the Pope. Remember, he's got 15 minutes with the guy. And he's saying when everyone thought the earth was flat. And to me, it represents the promise of hope in the future, something like that. I don't have it in front of me. But shortly after that, the Pope goes down to Cuba and meets the Russian Orthodox Pope that's down there in Cuba. First time these two have met, that Pope and this Pope have met in like 1,000 years, literally 1,000 years. That Pope then goes to Antarctica immediately afterwards. Why? We have no idea. He has pictures taken with penguins for the cameras. We do not know when the cameras were turned off what he did. Then you had a Russian fleet go down there carrying something. Some people called it the Ark of Gabriel that was claimed to be the real reason why all those 1,000 guys got killed. They said it was a stampede, but other people said no, it was lightning from this object that killed these guys. Who knows?
That was in Mecca, yeah.
Yeah, who knows if it was a sacrifice or not? But somebody died, and then they transported this thing down by a Russian fleet also to Antarctica. Then
they had that big ritual with the head of the church, the Russian Orthodox Church, one of that little voodoo thing that he does.
Yeah. And then you had John Kerry, the Secretary of State for the United States. He goes down there, but he's down there on the weirdest time. You couldn't get out of it. It was election night. The Secretary of State, you're backing your horse, right? You're backing Hillary. Hillary could win, right? So why aren't you in the States on election night? No, he's in Antarctica on election. They don't even talk about it. They do not. Why is John Kerry? Nobody wants to talk about it. You got Buzz Aldrin down there. I thought it was John Glenn initially, but I'm pretty sure it was Buzz Aldrin, even though John Glenn died shortly, very just a few months ago, and which means I think there's 7 Apollo guys left. But Buzz Aldrin's down there, and he had to be airlifted out, emergency airlifted out, and just going, why was he there in the first place? Why is he down there? You know, was it one of his last wishes? Was it a Make-A-Wish Foundation thing?
And Make-A-Wish Foundation, Make-A-Wish Foundation for alien astronauts.
There you go.
And here's the kicker with that is when they brought him back, they supposedly put him in a drug-induced coma.
Yeah. I mean, it got really weird. And Obama makes a trip down to, I think to raise less eyebrows, he made a trip down to Chile, but we don't know if he took a little puddle jumper down there. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And of course, these are just the people we know about. These are just the people that were in the news that they talked about went to Antarctica. How many other people that went down that we didn't know about? There was a lot of freaky stuff down there.
Well,
and
what's freaky to me is how it was worded in the news. Okay, John Kerry was summoned there.
Yeah. By what?
Okay, first off, who is in Antarctica right now that has the authority to summon John Kerry down there?
Well,
and who is down there that would summon him and him drop everything and go on election night?
Yeah, election night, the one night you want to be in your home base. I mean, again, in case Hillary wins, not that Hillary was going to win, but okay, you want my take on it. It was the same people that took care of the Nazi problem in 1946. There was a story out of all the stories that came out from Operation High Jump in 1946 when Admiral Byrd led that carrier fleet down there. I mean, that's documented. He went down there with a full-blown carrier fleet right after the signing of the Japanese surrender in, I think it was Tokyo. He took a full-blown carrier fleet down there because the only country that was in Antarctica during World War II was Nazi Germany. Again, that's straight out of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Because again, the Germans would want to do it. Look, if you're trying to win the war, take the world, you are going to exhaust all options if you're open-minded at all. It's like military alone, yeah, that's fine. And the Germans had a lot of high-tech stuff. I mean, they were very, very advanced. But if you hear about a magic box somewhere that might be able to turn the tide of the war, you're going to find that magic box. You're going to send everybody out. And that's the difference between them and us. Finally we believed it. It's like, hey, we heard they might be going after a magic box. So the story that I liked out of all the stuff that happened in Operation High Jump was that, and I'll explain why it fit in with some of the narrative that I use, is that Germany knew they weren't going to be able to hold on long because they didn't have the resources down there. They just didn't have the manpower to fight the entire Allies' forces in Antarctica. So they asked whatever advanced civilization was hanging around down there, the people that summon others, and they asked for asylum, much like we would, when criminals run from different people. They asked them for asylum, and that group says, okay, we'll grant you asylum, but if you leave, if you come with us, if we grant you asylum, that's it. You're done. You can never come back to the civilization. Then that's it. You're going to have to start from scratch, and it's going to be a whole new ball game for you. And that's what the option that they chose. And you're saying, well, why would you think that? The reason I think that is because when Admiral Byrd was interviewed on television in 1954, and he was talking about Antarctica and how all these other countries were down there doing resources, blah, blah, blah. Whatever happened down there, the Nazis were gone. They were not an issue anymore. Right. And it's even then, after the Nazis were absconded away, taken away, they were taken out of the picture. Even then, we didn't know where the outer marker was. And apparently, whoever the summoning people were down there weren't going to tell us either. It's like, oh no, we'll take the Nazis from here, but they weren't going to give us any more help. So then in 1955, when we figure out, oh yeah, by the way, the world ends here, then everything changed. And that's when you have to say, okay, everybody out of the pool. And that's it. Yeah, seriously.
Speaking of the Nazis, let me ask you, have you seen the trailer for Iron Sky 2? I
have. Is that thing ever going to get released?
I don't know, but I mean, here's the thing: is I could just live on the trailer.
No.
I used to, and this is one of my guilty little pleasures. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying they scrapped that one. That one's not going to be coming out. Oh, is it? I'll come out and come back in again. But
Okay, while he's gone, I'm a sucker for trailers. I like some trailers even more than I do the movies because you can do so much with trailers. And I used to watch, and I know it's not exactly PC correct, but I used to watch the Iron Sky one because there was like 6 or 7 Iron Sky trailers for the first one, and the trailers were brilliant. The whole watching the kids say "We come in peace" just gave me chills. It's like, it's got, and you're wondering why this thing never was released in the States. That movie had to scare a lot of people, and it was an interesting. I mean, yeah, the movie could have been done so much better. I honestly, you could have turned it into all sorts of different ways you could have gone with that movie. But the trailer for the second one, I'm watching him going, really, Hollow Earth theory, and Hitler riding a dinosaur, really. Really? Can you go any further over the top? Also not going to be released in the States anytime soon. With Sarah Palin as the president.
It's so funny. When I played the trailer on one of our shows, and that was the first thing I said to people. I was like, I just want you guys to know. I said, I do think this is they're portraying Sarah Palin as the president. Yeah. And then she goes into the whole the reptilian hand thing. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, go to on YouTube, do a search for Iron Sky 2 and watch the trailer. There's many trailers. Okay, there's a lot of trailers. Yeah. But it should be like the first one that comes up. It's the one where it starts out at the White House, and there's a woman who looks like Sarah Palin is looking out the window, and you see the bombs going off. Her helicopter comes and gets her and takes her off. So that's the one you want to watch. There are a couple of other ones, but that's one we're talking about.
I will say this, and I don't care if it's a spoiler alert because the movie's older, and if you haven't seen it by now, well, nothing I can do. I know. But the ending of the first Iron Sky was about as true to form as you're going to get, and that is once the Nazis were taken care of, it's a free for all. The last 5 minutes of that movie where every country just turns on each other. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It. Who's going to control this ultimate natural resource, helium-3, if I'm not mistaken? It was great, and that's where the new movie picks up. And again, this thing is gonna they're gonna try to slow down the production of this thing as much as possible because it offends a lot of people in the entertainment industry, as you can imagine. So
right, anyway. And not only that, but you look at the Gray State. What happened to David Crowley? I kind of think maybe it may be on the same line here. They stalled him too for putting out Gray State, and ultimately, he ended up dead along with his wife and child. But I mean, this is kind of it reminds me of that. It's we're waiting for the production. It's not coming out, but hey, we'll see. Yeah. It might. It still might. Yeah.
Anyway, so where were we?
I was going to ask you a question, and I forgot now what it was.
Mainstream media, science, where's it going? What have we done recently? The conference?
Yeah, let's talk about the conference.
You want to talk conference? Well, and I did not. I'm sorry, what? Robbie?
Oh, poor Robbie.
No, I'm here. So I was just saying, how's my sound?
Oh, it's better now.
That's okay then.
Anyway, the conference, which was not orchestrated by me, was co-sponsored by Robbie Davidson and Brian Mullen. Robbie Davidson from a channel called Celebrate Truth, and Brian Mullen, a structural engineer out of North Carolina. And they contacted me and a whole bunch of other people in the Flat Earth community and said, you know what, we're going to do a Flat Earth International Conference. It's going to be in the fall. It's going to be in Raleigh, North Carolina, in the United States. And how would you like to speak? And everybody said yes, except for 2 people. And it's I've been doing promos for it every week. It's still a long ways off, but it's going to be amazing because, and I would not surprise me if it drew, especially this year, if it drew some interesting media attention. Because if I was in media and I heard this thing was coming down the pipe, because it's in the middle of the East Coast, I would have teams drive down there because you don't know. It's like, are they going to be in costume? Are they going to be wearing tin hats? Are they going to be performing rituals? What do these flat earthers believe? And who is going to show up? Is Kyrie going to show up? Is B.O.B. was raised in Charlotte. He's that's his backyard.
Yeah.
If you're science, do you send people down there? I mean, you had a march for science. You've had march. Now, granted, the marches for science recently, that was mostly the Democrats going after the Republicans. But do you organize some sort of protest outside of the Flat Earth conference? What do you do? It's gonna be, and plus, we've reached the point now, and I'm still well. Just cannot believe it hasn't happened yet. We're the point now where our numbers are bigger than a lot of mainstream topics. Bigger, and we've done it with no marketing money at all. I mean, you type in something, you like, here, for example, here, I'll put the mic off to the side for 1 second. I'm going to fade. So if I type into YouTube, if I type in NASA, right, and I say sort by upload date, I get 7.7 million hits, relevant search results, right? I type in, that's all of NASA, right? So if I type in something like the Beatles, everything that's ever been done on the Beatles on YouTube comes in at 12.9 million, okay? I type in flat Earth. I sort by upload date. As of right now, it's 16.9 million. That gives you an idea.
We are definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, huge force. So, and the producers are out there. It's just that nobody's willing to pull the trigger yet. Nobody wants to be the first guy on the dance floor. I don't see why not at this point. What have you got to lose? It's already in the mainstream vocabulary. It's already in our vernacular. Celebrities have talked about this. Every talk show. The only people that haven't talked about it is the 4 mainstream networks, meaning there has not been a single news story television news story from CBS, NBC, ABC, and Fox. We'll count CNN for that's cable, but the none of those networks have covered this yet. So somebody's holding back. Somebody's waiting for something, and I mean they're letting ESPN cover it. They're letting every website, New York Times run. You can run articles online all day long, but when it comes to lowest common denominator television, they're not doing it yet. And it's like, because you know how easy it would be to do a television show? It's so easy. Here, producers, I'll write it for you. Here we go. It's called Flat Earthers, all right? You don't even have to hire actors. You hire the people that are in it, because there's a bunch of nutty characters in this group, and you take your pick and you go around, you do experiments. You can do them in the United States. You can do them outside of the United States, depending on your budget. That's it. You can interview Bill Nye, get his reaction. You can interview Neil deGrasse Tyson or Michio Kaku or just about any professor from anywhere, because you have the adversary, you've got the antagonist. It's so easy. And then the reviews. I mean, it's so polarizing that people will be yelling at each other in bars if it's on the television. The people will be like, articles will be like, Flat Earth, is it the end of television as we know it? Is it the worst show ever, or is it pure genius? What sponsors are going to be tied to just go on and on. So why hasn't it been done?
Didn't they do somebody put a documentary together and got a bunch of scientists to talk about the universe in such a way that actually tricked them into
it was called it was called The Principle, that movie, and they didn't necessarily trick them. They asked them their honest opinion, and with some creative editing, everyone kind of said, it's like, look, it looks like, now it doesn't say that we're the flat Earth, but it says that the Earth seems to be the center of a universe. Like everything started here for some reason, and that's strictly a geocentric model, which is fine. Does it say flat Earth in it? No, which is interesting because the guy that made that film hates us. He hates flat earthers because it completely undermines his thing. It takes the thunder away from his stuff. It's like, dude, not only are we geocentric, there's no universe out there. You're just looking. You're basically inside a planetarium. And the scientists they're, for lack of a better term, short-sighted, meaning they say, oh yeah, it looks like everything started here. Well, yeah, everything did start here, and you're just now figuring it out. So
now, when is this conference?
Conference is November 9th and 10th of this year, so later in the year, which is good because it gives everyone plenty of time to prepare. If you don't,
and it's in Charlotte.
No, it's in Raleigh, North Carolina. And if you want to check it out, all you have to do is real easy website to go to. Go to FE, as in Flat Earth, FE2017.com. That's it. And
can we register there?
Because, you can register.
Thing, I'm going to go.
You should go.
I'm going to go.
I'm going.
I'm going
If you wanted to meet everybody that you've been I shouldn't say everybody, but most of the people that have been making videos over the last year. I mean, in fact, do I have the list in front of me? I mean, you can go there, but just out of memory, let's see, Rob Skiba, Bob from Glowbusters, Jaronism, Patricia Steer, The Morgile, me, Celebrate the Truth, Controversy 7, it goes on and on. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people that are going to be there. Awesome. And ODD is going to be there. I was really happy that he's going. And it's going to be really, really cool. And again, there's something to be said, because I've done several smaller things already, social events. There's something to be said for being in a room of people that are on the same page with you, when outside of that room, family members, friends, coworkers, they will just give you a really hard time about it. It's something to be said. It's kind of like a really, really happy version of an AA meeting. I hate to make it sound like that, but it is, because people are there. So it's like, hey, my name's Jim. I'm a flat earther. He's like, hey, Jim. It's like, I got started in flat earth, but it's not a depressing story. It's like, I started hitting the bottle 6 years ago. No, it's they got into flat earth, and everyone tells a great story how it changed their life and opened them up. And there were some rough patches where the reality was turned upside down. How did they come out the other side? How did they come out the other side of the train tunnel, which apparently is pretty spooky for a lot of people. And it's fantastic. So yeah, go to fe2017.com.
I've actually got the site pulled up right now. I'm showing it on camera. Unfortunately, the VIP is sold out.
The VIP part is currently it is sold out. You can get general admission, which is fine. But if you do go, you can. I would recommend reserving the hotel room. You won't get billed for your hotel until November, but I would reserve it at that place, because I think the nearest hotel to it is like 3 miles away, and there's going to be quite a bit of drinking. So you don't want to be drinking and then trying to get to a hotel.
Uber.
Oh, right. Cabs.
Uber. That's right.
Didn't even think. I keep forgetting. I grew up on an island, so we didn't really have cabs. So, but yeah, if I grew up in New York, I'd know exactly what that was. I've never actually taken an Uber.
We used to take it when we were in Houston, because my boyfriend drives a truck, so we would go to Houston and we would get a motel room for the night, and then we have it's called Ellen's Swamp Shack that has like the most incredible seafood, and we used to take an Uber there and get wasted and then come back to the motel room.
It's good.
Hey, cleanest cars, nicest people. It's cheaper than
I hear that. It's gonna be a fun time, and it's provided some madness doesn't happen between now and then. And honestly, if you're a producer and you're looking to save money and make a freaking documentary on flat Earth, there it is. There's your documentary. You just show up and have the cameras running literally for 2 days straight. You interview as many people as you can and edit afterwards, and boom, you've got your flat Earth documentary right there. And I don't even know what you call it. Maybe call it Flat Earth, and admit it to Sundance the very next season, and you've got a potential winner.
I would have gotten a VIP. That really is.
Well, there might be more. You can email them. They're thinking about releasing more VIP tickets. The VIPs were sold out in a week.
Okay.
So, and part of it was my fault, because I was announcing it during one of my Strange World shows, where I said that there's only 7 left, and now there's 5, and now there's none. Because people, people are. They're weird. I mean, anyone that registers that early, yeah, they're going for the VIP stuff. But you're still going to have access. And even if you can't go, there's going to be streaming things that are going to, they're going to have nonstop streaming from the show, which is fantastic. And I have full confidence in the guys that are putting this thing on, and it's going to be a blast.
Amy Denise is going to be there.
Sorry, who?
Amy Denise, my friend Amy.
Oh yeah, Amy Denise is going to be of Oh
God,
I have not had the pleasure of talking to her or being on a panel with her yet, but I've heard good things.
Amy's one of my. Her and I have been friends on Facebook forever. I
really
love her to death.
Oh wow, yeah, she's one of the 3 female speakers. I think it's gonna be Patricia, Carly, and Amy.
Yeah,
I think there's 3. So I'm thrilled. I'm doing the keynote lunch on the first day, and then I'm doing the last event, which is the Flat Earth Video Award show, which of course is going to be, my co-host is Patricia Steer.
Laurie, who was that lady that we had on a while back talking about Flat Earth? Get her name now. There's a video.
Younger, older,
real up-spirited. With red hair. Where's the ponytail?
Voluptuous, yeah.
Oh, Orphan Red?
Yes, Orphan Red.
Will she be there?
She might. She's not presenting, but she might be there. I know she's she's trying to go, and she's still got plenty of time beforehand to make that work. I would imagine she'd want to do everything possible to go, because if there's going to be any sort of media there, that's one of the people you want to put on the camera. You know, because she is a firecracker, no question.
I'm gonna stop screen sharing for just a moment, guys, while I book my ticket.
Are you screen sharing with?
You better book me one, and I'm coming. Even if I have to swim, it's only the Atlantic. It's only the Atlantic Ocean. It's not a problem.
You don't have to book right this second. It's not going to sell out right.
You're sure it's not going to sell out
tonight? It's April. There's a lot of people.
But the VIP already sold out.
Well, no. But that's sold out 10 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna.
You're fine. You don't have to register right this second. Seriously, hey, super thrilled that you're enthusiastic. Trust me, it's not going to sell out tonight.
No.
I'm gonna take your word for it, because
seriously, the general admission. There's no reason to that people should rush to do general admission, because remember, it's far enough away that a lot of people don't know what they're going to be doing in November. So,
but
the timing's going to be good, because it is, and I to be honest, I'm kind of glad they're doing it on the East Coast rather than the West Coast, mostly because the bulk of the American population is east of the Mississippi, and it's in the middle of the East Coast. So there's a lot of people that are going to drive there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Chicago, so I mean, it's not really too far for me, you know.
No, I know people are going to be driving from New York. There's going to be people carpooling for this thing. So as we get closer, there's going to be groups they're going to form. I'm super thrilled that's going to happen, and cannot wait. I'm probably not going to sleep for 48 hours while I'm there, because there's going to be. Right. I'm just my hope is that the media that shows, I hope they are open-minded enough, or maybe they'll just be like a lot of the people I interview with. They're just blown away. It's like, wait, walking around going, wait, these people look relatively normal.
Right, we don't have two heads. We don't
exactly. There's nobody in costume. Orphan Red will probably be in a bright dress. What?
They won't be wearing Star Trek costumes.
No, well, probably not.
Eating painted food.
My only fear there is that somebody will show up in a freaking costume that won't be a flat earther, and that's who the media will be drawn to, because you
concentrating on them. Exactly.
Yeah, you'll go for the shiniest person there, and it's like, yeah, but you gotta be in a flat earth. So hopefully and we'll be we doing media access, so luckily we can vet anybody. It's like, oh yeah, that guy over there, he's not worse.
Alex Jones turns up. Oh god.
Oh well, don't get me started with Alex. If you saw that last video, that I didn't even know, but it makes so much sense. You heard that story about Alex that came out last week, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. He, because and I've caught some flack for it, and I've had several people say what?
I'm sure you have.
Well, they've said that. Oh no, you don't know Alex, and you shouldn't badmouth Alex. I'm going, look, I'm not badmouthing Alex. I'm just saying that, look, when he signs a legal document saying that he was basically faking it all these years, and it's a character that just to get ratings, then what am I supposed to do? I mean, how credible can he be at this point forward? Whenever I see him now getting into, getting all blustery and his blood pressure goes up, how can I take him seriously anymore? And don't get me wrong, I completely understand. He wanted to get custody of his 3 kids, and his lawyer said, you have got to do something, because you are the most public conspiracy guy currently in the world. And that's what, so that's what they did. That was their strategy. Now, it'll be sad if it doesn't work. If he goes to that extreme, then he'll lose both. Then it'll be.
Yeah, I've heard that he's lost custody.
Has it already been decided?
Yeah, he did. He lost custody.
Yeah. Oh, that's sad.
It is sad, but here's the thing: is obviously he didn't get the memo that says you can't turn a hooker into a housewife. So. Well,
yeah, it was funny you mentioned that, because it's like there's certain things you can't do if you're going for custody battle. Right. One of which is you can't be part of the adult film industry, right. And the second is you can't really be a super public hardcore conspiracy guy. Right. And if you are, and you're going for custody, so I feel bad that it's like if he's like he shouldn't.
I feel bad for the whole personal issue, I mean, I can relate to the whole, being a parent thing. But on the other hand, a lot was released during that. He admitted that he just plays a character. He admits, he admitted a lot of things, and his cover was blown essentially.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't have listened to his lawyer. I ran into a court case years ago because lawyers will tell you, there was a Japanese guy that sued our software company, and I'm sure, he went to them. They were like the biggest outfit in Denver, and they went to them and he said, "Can I win?" And what do you think they're going to do? They're going to take his money and they're going to say, "Absolutely, you can win."
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And he lost, and he decimated. He took down our company and his company. And, well, most of we actually died off entirely, but he limped along for a little while longer. But the same thing with Alex Jones. I mean, his lawyer probably told him, it's like, you come clean and say that it was all an act, and I can get you you got a good shot at getting your kids, keeping your kids. And he took that risk, and it backfired on him. So now he can go to his audience and says, "Well, I was only saying that for my kids," but it's like, dude, you signed a notarized thing saying that it was an act. It was the worst thing. It wasn't, again, I said this in my thing, it's not like he was caught in a bar after 6 shots of tequila saying it's like, "Oh, it's just an act." No, that's not what he was doing. It's like in court, has his lawyer say it, and it's a fairly public case. But anyway,
not a good career move.
No, and the saving grace for us is that he never jumped on the Flat Earth bandwagon. It helped us because he avoided us like the plague. I think I told you one of his producers contacted me at least a year ago and wanted to do a Flat Earth show, and they couldn't figure out how to word it without scaring off a whole bunch of people.
No.
And
they had a debate. They had a debate on InfoWars not so long back, and they pulled it from the website.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I grabbed it as fast as I could every time they did it. The Eddie Bravo thing. Oh geez, what a debacle that was. Where he goes down there, they fly him down to Austin, Texas, because that's where Alex is located, and they bring him. It was very clever what they did. They did a live stream from a restaurant. Alex was not there, where they let Eddie talk for 2 hours about Flat Earth, and then they put the stream on their website, and then they pulled it. Then they put him on a show without Alex, but those other 2 co-hosts, and they pulled that almost immediately. Then they put him on the Alex Jones show, but they wouldn't let him talk about Flat Earth. And it was again, Alex, it helped us because since he was not tied to Flat Earth in any way, shape, or form, he when his credibility was blown up like a ship with a torpedo, then Flat Earth came out looking good. We were fine. So and now I know that we never have to worry about doing his show anymore, because why would we care? Sort of like the Joe Rogan show. I don't think anyone's going to go on that show because of what I've said several times. He's the only conspiracy guy. Well, Alex Jones doesn't really count. Joe Rogan's the only conspiracy guy that I've ever known that became an anti-conspiracy guy. Who crawls out of that rabbit hole? Nobody. Nobody does.
Right.
You can't say that NASA is absolutely 100% fake, go against scientists, go against engineers, and then 3 months later come back and say, you know what? NASA's absolutely above board. Everything they say is true. It's like, well, okay, why? Everything is true.
Because you got paid off, and you got
because you got one season of a show called Joe Rogan Questions Everything. That's what you got. Well, seriously, that was the carrot. And look, I get it. He took the carrot, and he didn't know Flat Earth was coming down the road. That was several years before Flat Earth was around. So why wouldn't he? It's like, screw it. I don't care about NASA anyway. Now he cares, and now he has to play it as cool as he can. He's clever though. He's brought it up on so many shows we've lost count. He still mocks it, but he's generating more buzz for us every time he does it.
Yep, exactly.
So, good for him.
Exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, I told you before. I live with a globe head, and
a globetrotter.
A globetrotter. I live with a globetrotter. And
go ahead.
It makes for interesting conversations.
The interview I did yesterday with a group, and it was one of the few times. I mean, I don't care anymore because I figured, well, I'll just go in and although I probably will vet more, I just don't have the time to vet every show. And these guys, the 3 of them, 2 men and a woman, were all atheists, and the lead guy had a master's in mathematics, and that was really interesting because because they weren't budging. There was nothing, especially the mathematics guy. Because math is truth. Math is the universal language. Without math, there is no solar system. He was really offended, and you could tell he was a math guy because he kept really making these accusations like, what you're saying is that everything in calculus is BS. Everything in calculus is crap. You'll just have to throw out calculus. And I was like, no, man, like, you don't have to throw it out. I should probably look up all the fundamentals of calculus just to see if that actually is true. But he was the first guy I've ever heard say that. But and I go, look, you're hanging around your peers. If you have a master's in mathematics, you're hanging around a lot of scientific brainy types. And he was kind of denying that and blowing it off. It's like, come on, if you're a master's in math, you are one notch below people that end up being astrophysicists because astrophysics is heavy math, and it was an affront to him. You could tell the anger was coming out through him. The other guy, I think it was John, he was hitting shots of whiskey on air almost immediately because this was blowing his mind and he didn't know where to go with this. So yeah, because whiskey's gonna help. It's like, I'm just gonna get drunk while this guy continues to turn the world inside out. And the woman was to the point where she was having a hard time even getting a word in edgewise because these guys were just fuming mad. But the point is that some people, there's nothing you can do to help them.
No,
I joked that, look, if you have a master's in any physical science, and now I'm going to have to add math to that list, mathematics. If you have a master's in any physical science, your programming is so deep-rooted that there's nothing I can do for you. Astronomy, astrophysics, geology, you're done. That's it.
Yeah.
So
it's sad that the science. It's sad that science and I don't want to say religion because I don't religion, but between the Bible and science, it's like they're just butting heads. In order to believe the Bible, you have to denounce science, and in order to denounce science, you know what I'm saying? They constantly butt heads.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they're very, very intelligent people, but unfortunately, they're part of the fluoride guzzling community.
Right.
And the programming is so deep that they'd have to flail the skin off their bodies to even snap out of it.
Yeah. Well, like, and it doesn't. They don't even have to be that intelligent. It really comes down to the indoctrination. Like, my sister is a perfect example. She doesn't believe in any conspiracies whatsoever, and she basically, if it doesn't come through Fox News, it's not real. So even if it was on NBC News, she wouldn't buy it because, damn liberals. But, for her and a lot of people out there, it's from God's lips to Fox News. And unfortunately, that's the way it is, which is why this thing has not hit mainstream television yet, because they're afraid what happens when the lowest common denominator gets a hold of it. When they finally see, then they'll start asking questions because, as you know, once it hits, again, all you need is a single television show on any. Take your pick, because it's been pitched, to History Network, National Geographic, Discovery Channel. Any of those guys could run this thing in 2 seconds, and it hasn't deliberately. I mean, you can run 3 or 4 different shows on guys with beards who tackle alligators and have affairs and wear high-heeled shoes. But this, there could be, seriously, there's probably a show in the works about women who do underwater basket weaving right now, and yet flat Earth, that's not a topic. Come on, man. This thing generates.
That's the thing I say all the time. Look at last month when the world was waiting for April to have that giraffe baby. I mean, you could tune in and there was thousands of people watching it. You put a video out on Flat Earth and you're crickets sometimes.
Well, sometimes, but at the same time, I've seen channels, and again, which is why the Hangouts have gotten ridiculous right now. I mean, there was literally, what did they say, Sunday? Was it yesterday? There were like 8 Hangouts happening simultaneously in Flat Earth yesterday. That's almost unheard of to where now we are looking at a weird saturation point. Hey, basically anyone who does, because it's positive reinforcement. If you do a video, and I've heard this from people, it's like, I do a Hangout, and normally I just talk about crap. I'm happy if I get 5 people. But if I go and do a Hangout with Flat Earth, I get 70 people. or something like that. That's just a simple ratio. That sort of positive reinforcement means those people are going to keep, they're going to keep doing more and more of them. And the same thing with the video counts. You put out a video and you do flat Earth in it, and instead of getting 25 hits, you get 2,000 hits. I watched what was that? The Darren Nesbitt speech from. It's an extreme case, but it makes sense. From, I think it was St. Marie's Annex out in UK, and they did all sorts of little presentations about blah, blah, blah. They'd be lucky if they got into mid 3 figures, 200, 300. Darren Nesbitt does a hour-and-a-half presentation on flat Earth. It's something like, I don't know, 600,000, 700,000. And there's nothing else that follows it. Everything else, is just, 300, 200, 200, 500,000, 200. Wow. It's like, and again, that's the positive reinforcement to where Darren Nesbitt now, he's not an idiot. He's going and doing more public speaking engagements. It's not diminishing. Everybody that's doing it, their channels just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's no end in sight from what we can tell. The numbers just keep going up. That 16.9 million, that was barely even 15 million 45 days ago.
Wow.
And they've been trying to crush the numbers as best they can.
Said, we are a force to be reckoned with.
Oh,
yeah. We really are.
Why not? Why wouldn't it be a force?
Exactly. I actually had a debate, I should say, with somebody today because of doing the show tonight. And I gave them something to think about. And I haven't heard back from them because I really don't think they have an answer for it.
Yeah.
And I also, Robbie, if you notice, I put the same comment under the video that you put up earlier.
I did, yeah.
And I talked about Joshua's longest day. And I said...
Oh, yeah. The Joshua story.
Yeah. I said, here's a question for you Globers. I said, think about this. In the Bible, it says that Joshua stopped the sun. Oh my gosh, guys, hold on a second. Internet went down again.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Hold on. Give me 2 seconds here. As soon as I said that, boom. Oh, it goes, oh, snap. A call for an uprising was having trouble last night with us too. Okay, we're back. Okay.
The Joshua story.
Okay, so I said, when you talk about Joshua stopped the sun. Okay, so think about that on a globe perspective. Okay, we're told that the Earth is spinning around and around and going around the sun. So if Joshua stopped the sun, the Earth would have continued spinning around and around and around, and the Earth, the day wouldn't have stopped. But the fact that he stopped the sun proves that the sun is moving. We are a fixed plane.
Bingo. Yeah, bingo. And I know they'd argue it, and they say, well, back then when they wrote that, they didn't know the Earth was spinning. but that's also the point. Back then, they thought that the sky, everything moved in the sky, and the Earth didn't move. So if that's the story, then why, then it worked. It stopped the sun, and it worked. It wasn't updated later. In fact, nobody even thought of updating it later, which is interesting. You'd think that once science came around, that the church would have to update its text. It's like stop the Earth from rotating. But they never did. That was one of the lines I gave Rob Skiba when I was inadvertently converting him because, he had listened to me on a road trip. He's fond of telling that story and said, this guy's obviously insane. And then when I was talking to him, luckily I knew enough chapter and verse that I was throwing him out some examples. And one of them I used was, of course, the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel, where is that going if the Earth is rotating and spinning around the sun? Where is that tower going? It's just a tower. In fact, I remember thinking about this when I was in Sunday school years ago. A long time ago, where it's just basically a needle sticking out from a spinning globe that's just spinning around the cosmos. It's not going anywhere. But if it's a fixed point, if you knew where you were going and there was actually an end, if you were trying to reach the ceiling, then you knew exactly where it was going. And that was the point. And he got it. And he got the Joshua story, and he got everything else. The Earth is fixed, the Earth is immovable, so on and so on, to where he made the website, which I still refer people to even now, which is called testingtheglobe.com. If you are a believer, if you are into faith, especially Christianity, go to testingtheglobe.com. You will see every chapter and verse, and he will point it out in great detail, and it's extremely convincing to where now he does speaking engagements on the flat Earth, and I couldn't be happier for him. He's reached a lot of people.
Awesome. So where is Mark Sargent going as far as what projects do you have coming up besides this conference stuff? What do you
Well, my routine now, unfortunately, I've gotten into my weeks are. I'll give you an example of my weeks. Tuesdays I do a Strange World episode. Wednesdays I do a Flat Earth and Hot Potato Show with Patricia Steer. The Monday for Strange World, I have to do a promo for it. I do a license plate compilation every month. I do the promos for any meetups that people are doing, and I'm also doing what else? Oh, plus whatever videos I'm making. So, and including the conference promos. So between that, I do try to squeeze in other videos like what's happening in the news, if any for or against. If they outrage me enough, I'll do a video against it. If they're for us enough, I'll mention it. And then I've got my new clues in the background, but I'm not going to release it until it's warranted. I mean, there's so much content coming out now on a weekly basis that it's not like people need another batch of clues. And honestly, they'd probably get lost in the huge forest that is the Flat Earth content right now. So I'm just trying to, right now, I've really kind of been specializing in getting it on microscoping anybody that talks about Flat Earth in mainstream and putting it out there as fast as I can. And I've got people that help me with that, and that's really what I've been doing. It's been, again, an incredible journey so far because nothing about it's been solicited.
Your channel, your YouTube channel is growing. I've been watching it.
Oh yeah, and mine's not even. I don't even crack the top 10 when it comes to channel size. Although I will say, I'll be as humble as I can. The biggest videos are mine, but they're not even on my channel.
You're talking about the Under the Dome documentary.
Under the Dome full documentary. They're Hiding God with the Greatest Lie Ever. Those are both over 2.5 million each. There's other people that are over 500,000 in some cases. There's been millions of hits in other places, but that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a Creative Commons license because the truth, I'm not going to copyright strike anybody. It's been translated into a whole bunch of languages. What's really neat now is watching channels that I can't even understand. Indonesia, China, Japan, Korea. There's a lot of different. Russia. There was a hangout that was being broadcast in the U.S. market for whatever reason. A Russian Flat Earth hangout. This thing is going everywhere, and it's fantastic. So I'm just trying to stay as close to the top of the wave as I can, and be there for when people need me. So when this thing makes the jump to whatever it's going to be, I'll be humbled if I'm a part of it. If I can't be a part of it, I'll be supportive of anyone that is. So that's my stance right now, because I didn't choose Flat Earth. Flat Earth chose me.
Yeah.
That's true.
In fact, we'd be quite honoured if we.
Oh, Robbie.
We could make it. We could make you an admin of the Underground Resistance Network page, and at any time you want, feel free to put any of your content on our page.
That's not a bad idea. I just don't know if I'd have time.
No, you don't. You don't have to sit on there every day like I do. But any time you're passing by, and something of importance is.
All right. Well, send me a thing. Send me a thing when you get a chance, and I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, poor Robbie. I've got it. I want to publicly thank Robbie. He's such a sweetheart. I love you to death, Robbie. You have picked up slack since I started working, and you have just done an amazing job on the pages, and thank you.
It's all praises to the Most High,
Exactly.
Always.
So, we've crashed a couple of times. Mark, can I ask you a favor? I know you're recording this. Can you send me a copy of the recording?
Yeah. Email me.
I will.
Either put your email address in Skype, or just email me at msargent23@comcast.net, and I will send it, because it's going to be pretty big right now. It's coming in at 75 megs. I'll send it through WeTransfer, so it won't clog up anybody's email address.
Okay, I appreciate it, because like I said, we've gone down a couple times. I've had to reload the page, so I want to make sure that everybody
one of the reasons I record it.
So. Yes, unbelievable. But if you guys don't know who Mark Sargent is, and I can't imagine if you were a flat earther or even touched on the topic or got curious with the topic, if you don't know who he is, check him out. Mark Sargent over on YouTube. Great show.
You don't even have to type in my name. Just type in Flat Earth if you want to find anybody in the community, or just type in Flat Earth Clues, and you will find me.
Exactly. Well, Mark, thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, I couldn't be happier. It's my third interview this weekend.
Nice.
So,
and hopefully I'll get to meet you in November.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. And I will have a lot of fun meeting everybody, and hopefully, well, I'm sure we'll talk before then. So because it's only
well, you never know. They might have an alien disclosure sometime between now and then. And I just want to know, have you got a statement prepared? Because you're gonna have to say something, Mark.
I am not. I have got statements prepared for just about everything, so don't worry. I got it covered.
Nice. I want to thank you guys for joining us. Everybody in the chat room, thank you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this video up here, but then when Mark sends me a copy of the audio of it, I'm also going to put that up for you guys. So I do apologize. I know that YouTube has been having some real chop issues. I was watching a call for an uprising last night. He got kicked off of his live feed like 3 or 4 times. So I know it's not on my end. So, but I do want to apologize. Thank you so much for moderator Iron 5 is in the chat room. Thank you to Buddha Girl. I see you. I see Liza. I see JJ was in there earlier. Thanks to you guys. So until next time, Mark, take care.
All right. Hey, thanks very much for having me, and we'll talk next time. Stay flat.
Thank you, Mark.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark. We're off the air.
Okay.
Yeah, we got kicked off about 5 times. I had to keep reloading it. So.
Oh, no worries. I'll as soon as I close this call out, it'll start the recording should build, and then I'll shoot it to you. Just shoot me your email when you can.
I sure will, Mark. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right,
no worries.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.